Thank you for joining us for this 2024 year in review of the River Field Studies Network, an NSF-funded research coordination network in undergraduate biology education. Rivers are vital to human societies. They are complex ecological systems that are home to tremendous biodiversity, but they're also in crisis due to anthropogenic stressors. Field studies are vital for training the next generation of river scientists and stewards, but because of their complexity, field studies are also in crisis. Our River Field Studies Network, Community of Practice, is a response to these paired crises. We aim to support rivers and those that study and care for them by building river field instructor capacity, by working together with partners to broaden participation, by providing training for instructors in best practices related to promoting safety, health, equity, and inclusion, by working with our participants to develop and share new educational resources. And we pursue these objectives standing on the foundation of our network code of conduct and diversity, equity, inclusion, and justice statements. In this 2024 year in review, we'll cover the completion of our second River Field Scholar cohort, the starting of our third River Studies cohort, partnerships that we've been working on with the River Management Society, Belonging in Field Studies, and the Society for Freshwater Science Emerge program. We'll also highlight some new field courses and programs that members have developed, webpage and webinar developments, and touch on long-term planning. Perhaps our biggest lift each year is our River Field Scholars Professional Development Program. The learning objectives of this program include increased ability in developing and assessing effective freshwater field educational experiences, increased ability and confidence for teaching in the field, increased capacity to identify and manage field safety issues, increased capacity in outdoor skills related to day and multi-day river trip experiences, increased capacity to scale from individual lessons to field courses, increased ability to address issues of diversity, equity, inclusion, particularly as they pertain to field studies, and a greater sense of belonging in our instructors to the community of river field educators. The program runs almost the course of a full year, with spring virtual training and lesson development, summer field training at our in-person river rendezvous and lesson piloting at the rendezvous, virtual training in the fall, and revision and public development of the lessons, and in the winter, lesson publication and dissemination at our virtual winter gathering meeting. In 2022-23, we trained our first cohort of 10 river field scholars and ran the James River Rendezvous in Richmond, Virginia. In spring of 2023, we onboarded our second cohort of river field scholars. These scholars participated in our San Juan River Rendezvous, which was based out of Flagstaff, Arizona. They continued the program and graduated in spring of 2024, with 15 new River Field Scholar certificates being awarded. These scholars published 8 new open source lessons to our River Field Studies Network CUBES library, bringing the total number of lessons in the library to 18, and these lessons have collectively been viewed more than 14,000 times and downloaded nearly 8,000 times. Based on the external evaluation of the 2023 Scholar Program, it was very successful. We saw large increases in post versus pre-self-assessment with respect to 10 of the 15 program objectives, and some increase in 4 of the remaining 5. That being the case, the feedback from the 2023 participants did highlight some important areas for improvement. Particularly, they highlighted that we should continue to work to broaden engagement, particularly within the leadership team. We should work to streamline the rendezvous, and we should focus on team building. In response to this feedback, we created the Alumni Leadership Program. This is a program where alumni of the River Scholars Program can be nominated to be considered for a stipend-supported leadership role position. In this role, they will join the steering committee for a period of 1 year, and they will also be tasked to work with one of the subcommittees for a period of a year, and they will identify a particular task with which they will contribute. So for example, Allison O'Dowd and Andy Stubblefield both were leader alumni this past year, and they both played a really major role in planning and hosting the Klamath River Rendezvous for the 2024 scholars, as an example. Based on their feedback, we also revised the River Rendezvous. We pushed the start back to later in the spring, and we reduced our initial online training to focus on training for preparing for the rendezvous. The idea is now that the in-person rendezvous is the big kickoff event of the program. At the rendezvous, we continue to model field lessons and model a river field course. And we also emphasize basic swiftwater safety training as we have in the past, although we no longer offer a full swiftwater safety certificate program because we found that not all of our participants were interested in that level of training. We focus on team building within that cohort, and we focus on lesson ideation, coming up with the ideas for lessons together as a team, rather than showing up with a lesson that they've created on their own already to be tested at the rendezvous. And so that shifts us into the fall, focusing on writing and reviewing the lessons. And then the participants are now piloting these lessons for the first time at their home river. And this addresses the challenge that we were putting our participants in, where we were asking them to show up at a place that they'd never been before and teach a lesson for the first time in front of an audience that they'd never met before. We thought that was an unrealistic challenge for piloting a new lesson. In the winter, we continue to focus on revising the lessons with input from both the test audience and their peers and mentors, publishing that lessons to cubes, and then presenting it at the winter gathering. In early 2024, we recruited broadly to recruit for our third cohort of River Field Scholars. We received nearly 40 applications, and from those we selected 12 new scholars. We onboarded these scholars in April and May in time to prepare them for the 9-day river rendezvous based on the Klamath River in Northern California. The site this year, of course, was selected to take advantage of the historic dam removals on the Klamath as a really unique once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for place-based river learning. This was our first river rendezvous that was led by alumni of our program. Dr. Allison O'Dowd and Dr. Andy Stubblefield, both from Cal Poly Humboldt, served as our hosts, and they led the planning and the implementation of the rendezvous with support from the leadership team. This was an incredible lift on their part, and we are very thankful for what they shared with us. The rendezvous had two parts. The first part was focused on the Klamath Dam removal story, and then modeling river skills, camping skills, teaching in the field skills as we participated in a 3-day rafting trip down the Klamath. During the second part, which was based at the Sandy Bar Ranch, we focused on Indigenous peoples and the cultural significance of the Klamath. We invested in diversity, equity, inclusion training, and we spent a lot of time brainstorming with the participants to come up with their new lesson ideas and to co-create with them a plan for developing and testing these lessons moving forward. Post-rendezvous evaluation suggests that we got the scholars off to a good start. All participants agreed that since participating in the River Scholar program, that they were more likely to organize a river field course. All participants agreed that looking ahead to the next 6 months, the expectations were clear of them. And nearly all of them agreed that since participating in the River Scholars program, they were more likely to include one or more new river field lessons in their educational instruction. Some example comments include, I think this is an amazing program. I appreciate the modeling of diversity, equity, inclusion, and justice, and the discussions that we opened up about the protocol for working with Native and Indigenous peoples. This is a critical portion of the network. I'm grateful to have been able to participate. It was a great way to see leadership model as well. Overall, it was a wonderful experience and contributed greatly to my professional development. The rendezvous was a stellar experience. It hit all the high marks that it had targeted. It was well worth our participation, as good as could be, 10 out of 10. It is not often we get experience like that. Scholars then completed the first draft of their lessons by mid-August. These were peer-reviewed by the participants as well as the leadership team by mid-September. They were then field tested between September and November. Field piloting was coordinated by the scholars themselves at their home rivers with their own test audience. And this looked different for each of the scholars. Some were simply able to integrate their pilot into a class that they were already scheduled to teach. Others had to work with an audience of peers that volunteered their time to go through the lesson. One participant even had to revive her school's dormant geology club in order to make it happen. In all of these cases, the participants were able to submit to the River Field Studies Network an anonymous feedback form using a Google form, which we then shared back to the participants. Participants were then able to share about their experiences of piloting their lessons with each other during an online debriefing session. And this is an example debrief slide from that session. This one focuses on the lesson that Suzanne Walther taught, which focused on the San Diego River's watershed connectivity. In reflection, it seems that this distributed pilot at your own home river approach seems to have worked pretty well for the scholars this year. And in addition, this approach really increased student engagement with the project. In the past, where we would have had a single test class of about 10 students engaging with the participants, we found that we now have a diverse audience of more than 300 people who participated in helping our scholars test their lessons. Armed with their initial reviews of their lesson drafts and now the feedback from their student test audiences, the scholars are now revising for their lessons for a final round of peer review before publishing them to cubes and presenting them to the network. You can join us for the unveiling of these new lessons at our winter gathering, which is 27th of January, 4 to 6 p.m. Eastern Time. This will feature the presentation of the 2024 Scholar Cubes lessons and essentially their graduation ceremony. But the event will also include a keynote address from Dr. Ryan Emanuel of Duke University entitled Whose Watershed? Reimagining Indigenous Land Acknowledgement for Engaged River Science, as well as a look at the year ahead with some information about the Field Scholar program just ahead of the deadline for the 2025 applications. Looking back on 2024, we will have delivered 3 network-wide webinars. The first was Dan Chase, who spoke about the restoration of the Klamath River following the historic dam removal at our last winter gathering. Dr. Mandy Lee, who led a workshop on designing field lesson assessment to align with learning objectives in August. And then in mid-December, we have our third webinar focused on building collaborations between university STEM and outdoor programs to design better field courses. Collectively, more than 200 have registered for these webinars. Announcements for webinars, links to network resources, and other news can always be found at our webpage, which we recently redesigned and relaunched in 2024. Shifting gears a little bit, let's talk about some of the important partnerships that we've been cultivating over the last year. One important partner is the River Management Society. They are a national nonprofit organization whose mission is to support professionals who study, protect, and manage North America's rivers. The River Management Society administers the River Studies and Leadership Certificate Program. This is a program for either undergraduate or graduate students. It is comprised of 4 core course areas: geographic information systems, river science, river policy, and swiftwater safety training. Then the student can pick an area of emphasis: river science, policy, or recreation. They take 2 more courses in that area. Then they pursue some sort of a professional experience, and then they have to do a write-up of that professional experience or present it orally in order to complete the certificate. The River Management Society partners with 14 universities around the country to offer this certificate. Since it was started 10 years ago, 62 River Studies and Leadership certificates have been awarded, and the pace of awards has been increasing in recent years. The certificate program at each of these 14 schools is led by a faculty coordinator, and 86% of these coordinators are members of the River Field Studies Network. Further, 4 recently created programs within the last couple of years were created by alumni of our River Scholars program. So this is an important example of how, by supporting the faculty and instructors at these institutions, the River Field Studies Network is having knock-on effects impacting the students across the country. Indeed, the most recent issue of the River Management Society Journal, which just came out this fall, features 4 articles that highlight this important collaboration between RMS and the River Field Studies Network. Another important collaboration this past year was with the NSF Belonging in Field Education Community of Practice. 2 of our leaders, John McLaughlin and James Vonish, participated in their 6-month-long training program. One of the outcomes of this collaboration was the development of a new software tool, an e-journal called FOTJ, and this tool was designed in collaboration with Dr. Rodney Dyer at VCU, and it enables students to self-report their sense of belonging, participation, and teamwork continuously throughout a course. We piloted using this tool with students in VCU's Footprints on the James Summer 2024 class. And we found that this finer scale resolution of students' sense of belonging provides some really valuable insights. It gives us much more insight into how belonging varies through time for within and across individuals. It allows us to look at the trajectory of sense of belonging over the lifespan of a course. And it also allows us to try to map on particular sense of belonging outcomes to particular class activities. We shared these findings at the Ecological Society of America meetings this summer as part of an organized session hosted by the Belonging in Field Education group, and there's an article in review at the ESA Bulletin that covers it. Highlights are also featured in a short article in the most recent River Management Society Journal. Another collaboration that we've continued to foster in 2024 is with the Society for Freshwater Sciences NSF-funded Emerge program, a program aimed at increasing diversity and inclusion in the field of freshwater science. Their year-long program includes a variety of training opportunities, but one of the key components is a team-building river float immediately before their annual meeting. The River Field Studies Network has partnered with the Virginia Commonwealth University Outdoor Adventure Program to plan and implement this component of the SFS Emerge program, the River Float Trip. We did this in 2022 when we organized a river trip on the Pear Marquette River prior to their national meeting in Grand Rapids, and again in 2024 in advance of their meetings in Philadelphia when we helped plan a river trip on the Delaware Water Gap in New Jersey. SFS Emerge external evaluation has shown that this river trip component has been really highly impactful for their participants, and as Emerge looks at their next phase, they have indicated that they wish to continue the river programming in collaboration with the River Field Studies Network. And a final example of an important collaboration that we've been developing in 2024 is that the River Field Studies Network will be partnering with the river field safety experts at Sierra Rescue International to help vet our risk management standards for river courses guidelines. We're also planning to broaden access for our instructor members to get swiftwater safety training through partners like Sierra Rescue by giving an opportunity for partial reimbursement to members who complete training at approved organizations. Shifting gears from collaborations, the River Field Studies Network continues to be an incubator for field courses. Some examples taught by our members this past year include a new groundwater course at University of Nevada, Reno, My River Adventure Summer Camp in Wisconsin, the International River Science course on the Usumacinta River in Mexico, UC Davis's UC Water Academy, the Klamath Basin Field Course at Cal Poly Humboldt, and the James River BioBlitz in Virginia. A couple of highlights from this year. Caitlin Matos, River Field Studies Scholar in 2023, and team at the Four Corners Water Center in Fort Lewis, Durango, received $250,000 in funding from the Walton Family Foundation, and this supported their Tribal Water Media Fellowship program. This 6-month program included a 2-week media training program workshop, which included a river trip on the Chama River in New Mexico this year. Carolyn Cummins, also from the 2023 cohort, was then tapped to take over this program in Katy in August of this year. Carolyn writes, I finished my PhD in May of 2024 and shortly after got a new job as the director of the Four Corners Water Center at Fort Lewis College in Durango, Colorado, my hometown. The connections that I made and the lessons that I learned through the River Field Studies Network were extremely helpful for me in applying for and ultimately landing this position. She goes on to write, my experience at the River Field Studies Network has been and will continue to be extremely helpful in leading these initiatives and serving students with high-quality river-based field education. Another highlight from this past year was the inaugural graduate-level Cape Fear River Watershed course led by River Field Studies Network alumni leader Sarah Preskiewicz at UNC Greensboro. This is a project we've been encouraging since their initial proposal to the National Endowment for the Humanities, and it was exciting to see them take their students to the field in the second year of their project. Further, the crossover event that we arranged between the students of the Cape Fear course and the VCU James River course, allowing students to share their experiences of the river through a humanities and a STEM lens, respectively, is an example of the spontaneous synergistic opportunities that the network, as it starts to mature, is increasingly catalyzing. The dramatic course and program development at West Virginia University is another highlight of the year, led by River Field Studies Network 2023 alumni Nico Zegre. They've developed 2 new field courses. They've joined the River Management Society River Studies and Leadership Certificate Consortium this year. And Nico has developed a new West Virginia University specific certificate program titled River Conservation and Management, which is currently in review with the University Registrar's Office and plans to launch this program in 2025. Nico shares that the River Field Studies Network has been critical to the development and growth of my teaching activities at West Virginia University. Most importantly, my involvement with the RSFN has nurtured my confidence to teach in the field by providing leadership tools, best practices, feedback, and community. In 2025, we're also looking forward to running our first cross-network field course. This is a perfect storm of collaboration, bringing together the network with a professional society and 4 different universities. The event will bring together the River Field Studies Network leaders and RMS River Studies and Leadership coordinators from 3 different universities, VCU, University of Tennessee, Chattanooga, and Northeastern State University in Oklahoma, as well as our new partner university, University of Arkansas. This collaboration starts with a hybrid online course followed by a field seminar. It will meet virtually until mid-March, and then we'll bring everyone together for a multi-day river trip on the upper Buffalo River, which was the United States' first wild and scenic river. This event is coordinated in combination with chapter meetups from the Southeastern and Midwestern chapters of the River Management Society. And so not only will it bring together these students from across the nation, but we'll also bring them together with river professionals so that they can network. Looking ahead as our project enters year 4 of 5, supported by the National Science Foundation, we are continuing conversations with several professional organizations to try to ensure that the River Field Studies Network mission continues beyond this initial funding. So in conclusion, year 3 has been one of significant progress for the network. We now have 25 instructors that we've trained, with 12 more in progress. We've published 18 open source lessons, with 11 more in the pipeline. The lessons that we've already published have been downloaded thousands of times. We've established a number of really impactful collaborations to advance our mission. We've become an incubator for new field courses and new programs, and we're laying the groundwork for sustainable legacy, moving beyond NSF funding. And it's particularly exciting as the network matures to start to see surprising, unanticipated, synergistic outcomes that were not originally envisioned in the proposal. Looking ahead to 2025, we'd love for you to join us. Applications for the next River Field Scholar program cycle are open through February 2025, and that would include having you join us for the in-person rendezvous on the Cheat River watershed in West Virginia, hosted by Nico Zegre, who is alumni of our training program in 2023, and this event will happen in the end of May, beginning of June. We also plan to launch our River Field Safety Voucher Program in the next year. And related to that, we also will host a River Field Safety Boot Camp at the VCU Rice River Center in Richmond, Virginia. This multi-day event will include training in social and emotional safety in the field, wilderness first aid and CPR certificate, a swiftwater safety certificate, as well as mentoring about the fairly new, National Science Foundation Safe and Inclusive Fieldwork Plan that's required for NSF grants that have field components now. And of course, as I already mentioned, we'd love to see you join us at our winter gathering on the 27th of January, 4 to 6 p.m. Eastern. And this will feature a keynote address by Dr. Ryan Emanuel of Duke University and the Lumbee Tribe, who will speak on Whose Watershed? Reimagining Indigenous Land Acknowledgement for Engaged River Science, as well as feature the new lessons and the graduation of the 2024 Scholars Cohort and updates for the year end. If you're curious about our Field Scholar program, this is a great event to come to learn a bit more about it before you put your application in, which is due right after in the first week of February. For more information about the network, you can visit our webpage and our CUBES hub page where the lessons are available. You can also feel free to email us, and there's a PDF of the slides in this presentation with all of the hot links that are embedded in the description below. Thank you for taking time to listen to this year in review of the River Field Studies Network. Looking forward to seeing you on the river.